When you think of movies that might have a central Christian message, you probably don't think of movies like Saw. Me even covering this movie will probably trigger some Christians in the comments. So let me be clear, this video is not an endorsement of the Saw franchise, but rather examining how God's morality permeates even the most violent and gruesome of mainstream culture. Hello everyone, my name is Holden Hardman and I am the Pop Culture Christian. I take a look at pop culture from a Christian perspective and find God everywhere, even in the most unlikely places. Today we're looking at the movie Saw. Now, let's not be naive here. Part of the allure for Saw is the grotesque violence and creative ways that our main antagonist, John Kramer, traps and kills his victims. But what is surprising is how his philosophy, or at least presented philosophy, aligns very closely with Christian values. There's room for misunderstanding in that sentence, so I'm not advocating that Christians should torture people as a form of evangelism. I'm not saying that we should have people convert or kill them. This isn't Islam. Shots fired! Shots fired! But when John explains his reasoning, his foundational issue with culture, with the world, it makes a lot of sense, although he takes it way too far. As a refresher, if it's been a while since you've seen Saw, or if you're a better Christian than the rest of us and have never seen Saw, the story of the movies, at least the original few, focus on John Kramer, a.k.a. Jigsaw. After a suicide attempt, John becomes psychopathic, furious at people willfully throwing their lives away, when people like him were having theirs cut undeservedly short. John creates deadly traps and scenarios to punish and enlighten self-destructive individuals. These devices force his victims to inflict pain and suffering on themselves or others to escape or face severe consequences. Jigsaw's tests are often symbolic of a flaw that he sees in that person's morality or their life. His core philosophy is that people take life for granted, and they only learn to appreciate it when they're confronted with death. He orchestrates these tests to give people a severe wake-up call and force them to appreciate life and change their destructive behaviors. What Jigsaw and Christians agree with is that life is valuable and it shouldn't be squandered. As culture becomes increasingly secularized, life becomes decreasingly valuable in that culture. A significant indicator of cultural pessimism is the decline in mental well-being. And you can see this with the rise in suicide rates and other mental health challenges. Suicide rates in the US reached a record high in 2022 and have continued to be on the rise. The CDC reports that though there was a decline in 2020, it has since peaked in 2022 and has been rising since. Suicide is the second leading cause of death from people between the ages of 10 and 34, underscoring a deep sense of hopelessness for younger generations. These stats reflect a growing crisis of despair and a lack of faith in the future. Modern attitudes towards careers or even personal goals is just showcasing that pessimism is the new cultural standard. When polled consistently, younger generations like Gen Z and millennials will say that they value a work-life balance and want to do work that they believe has meaning. But what's interesting is that there is a simultaneous decrease in those same people striving towards any type of leadership position. This apathetic view reflects a broader pessimism about the ability to create a better future through your own effort. In Christianity, the value of life is based on every person being made in the image of God and has inherent dignity because of that. Life is seen as a sacred gift from God, and we are to be good stewards of it. The ultimate act of love and sacrifice is not found in forcing others to suffer, but in the self-sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Christian morality is grounded in God's character and his command to love one another. The Christian view is that the end does not justify the means, meaning a good outcome cannot be achieved by using immoral or evil methods. Jigsaw, on the other hand, believes that his horrific methods are justified because of the enlightenment he hopes to bestow on his victims, making his morality a perversion of these core Christian principles and therefore evil. To take it a step further, the Bible teaches that believers are meant to honor God not just with our spiritual lives, but with our entire being, including our physical bodies. This is because, from a Christian perspective, the body is not just a container for the soul, but a sacred part of who we are, created by God and redeemed by Christ. Another key value that Christians in Jigsaw agree with is that actions have consequences. Jigsaw claims that his victims have free will because they have a choice.
Live or die. Make your choice.
However, this is a flawed and manipulative concept of free will. The choices are not really free because they're made under extreme coercion, often requiring self-mutilation or the harm of others. The consequences of failing a test are not just, but a violent form of punishment enacted by a self-appointed judge who lacks the authority to override someone's personal autonomy. He is forcing people to value their lives through trauma, believing that this intense, negative consequence will bring about a positive change. Basically, he's what every anti-theist perceives God to be. But is this accurate? Christian theology also teaches that actions have consequences, but this is rooted in God's moral order, not in a human's sense of twisted justice. The concept of free will in Christianity is the genuine choice to choose between evil or good, to obey or disobey God. This freedom is a gift from God, and with it comes a moral responsibility. Unlike Jigsaw's traps, these consequences are a result of natural objective moral law and divine judgment. The ultimate negative consequence of sin is spiritual separation from God, which is another form of death. This is where the contrast with Jigsaw is so stark. Christ offers a path to escape the negative consequence of sin through grace and redemption, not through self-mutilation. You don't have to earn your way out of it. It is a gift freely given. The torture and suffering of a trap ready to ensnare you was already intentionally sprung by Jesus Christ. To break it down further, what is the purpose of Jigsaw's consequences? To shock victims into a newfound appreciation for life through extreme pain and trauma. What's the purpose of God's consequences? To demonstrate God's justice and show the destructive nature of sin. Jigsaw creates a false free will, a coerced choice between horrific torture and death. It's an illusion of autonomy. God's sense of free will is the genuine ability to choose between good and evil, to obey or disobey God. It is what makes love meaningful. The path to salvation, according to Jigsaw, is enduring a violent and physical ordeal to escape a trap. Survival is the reward, and fingers crossed that the victim will have a new lease on life. For Christians, the path to salvation is receiving forgiveness and new life through faith and repentance. And finally, Jigsaw appoints himself as an agent of justice, when in reality he's just a human, self-appointed judge, jury, and executioner. He reflects the source of the deepest sin of all and the first temptation of man, to be equal with God. Jigsaw's actions are a modern and horrific reenactment of this original sin. He is a human being who has taken it upon himself to sit in the seat reserved for God alone. He believes he has the right to judge others, determine the value of their lives, and to administer justice on a scale reserved for God alone. He is a man who, like Adam and Eve, rejects his position as a created being and seeks to be his own God, with catastrophic and deadly results, which is always the end result. He's also in a bit of denial.
I've never murdered anyone in my life.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
While Jigsaw is certainly corrupt, the Christian is in heavy agreement that life is sacred and valuable and shouldn't be squandered. We view it as a gift, and it should be treated as such. Let me know your thoughts on this video and the topic of life having value. I appreciate you letting me delve into these darker pop culture movies, and since it's October, I figured it was a good time to get into them. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video, everyone. God bless.